There's an old story that most people, part of Eastern traditions, have heard, whether it be a spiritual or religious tradition. And that's of a man once going to a sage, a very holy man that he wanted to go to find out how he could become enlightened. And he asked, how do I become enlightened? How do I reach enlightenment? And the sage said, you only have to do one thing, and that is don't think about the monkey. Now the man was very confused, and he left. He started to walk away and continue about his day, and constantly tried to think, okay, all I have to do is not think about the monkey. And as time progressed throughout the day, he kept on trying to not think about the monkey, not think about the monkey, not think about the monkey. And the more he tried not to think about the monkey, the more he realized that he was thinking about the monkey. Now, this story kind of hints about something in meditation that people who meditate know. And that is, when you try to think about not thinking, you end up thinking far more. It's a skill that one has to develop in meditation to kind of push thoughts out without forcing them out. Because the second that you start forcing a thought out, what happens is that you end up creating a passion or anger emotionally that fills your mind with a whole array of static that wouldn't have been present if you just allowed the thought to pass. Now, there are two techniques. I try to usually just push out the thoughts like air expanding in my mind, the feeling of air expanding, not thinking about air, but just the feeling of air expanding in my mind, trying to push them out. But another technique is to just watch the thoughts go by. Just watch them pass and have no attachment to your opinion on them or how they affect you. Just see them go past, as like you're sitting in front of a very large circle of screens that are just going from one to the next in front of you, and you're sitting in your meditation, and these screens are just going by you, kind of widescreen TVs in a way, and they're all lined up, and they're just going by you one at a time. And you're not really thinking about them, you're not really trying to assign a certain feeling to them, you're just allowing them to pass. That's another technique to dealing with thoughts popping up in your mind when you're meditating, thoughts that often are real pests when it comes to trying to really focus on the feeling of consciousness, because that's what we're trying to get to in meditation a lot of the time, is the feeling of consciousness, not a description of it, not an association with something else, just the feeling itself of that essence that is consciousness. And now, if you're meditating while using thoughts, while you're trying to focus on coming to a resolution, you're trying to focus on reaching out to somebody mentally, or trying to send them goodwill through energy, however you want to classify it, prana, energy, thought forms, whatever you want to say. When you're trying to do that, your thoughts must be controlled. They must be not necessarily described, but not extrapolated beyond the thought itself. So I can explain. If we think about a fire truck, and we want to send the image of a fire truck towards somebody else mentally, this would be very strange, but towards somebody else to try to put it in their minds. You don't think about the space around the fire truck. You don't think about, just imagine it on a background of black, and you don't think about that black. It's just a void. You don't imagine who's in the fire truck. You don't imagine every single detail of what's on the fire truck. You just hold the image of that truck in your mind and try to will it to that person's mind, whoever you're trying to send it to who you want to receive that image of a fire truck or that communication of a fire truck. This is a very simple exercise that you can do with friends, and it really gets you focused on trying to see one image and not see anything else associated with that image, just trying to send one image at a time. And if you're trying to communicate a message, it has to be just a focused visualization of that message, whether it's pictures or whether it's just the sounds of the words and what you associate with them sometimes if you want to communicate a message. Now, there are multiple ways to travel around the world during meditation. Astral travel, if you wish. Astral projection, some people call it. I don't really like the term, but astral projection is what a lot of people call it. And time and space basically flex and move with the mind. The mind conquers time and space. So it's very easy, if you can learn to visualize well, to go above yourself and then go over space in very quick amounts of time, and just it becomes a blur if you do it well. And you'll find that you actually can visualize much more of the world than you realize, much more of the neighborhoods, much more of the states, much more of what's going on there, and much more of places where you don't know what it looks like than you imagined if you practice this again and again. And that it becomes a blur as you're trying to send either a message to somebody or trying to view a different part of the world. And the more you practice this, the more you realize that imagination and creation are very much intertwined, and that when you try to imagine something and you do this enough times, you can actually see what's going on in different parts of the world. That might sound crazy. I would certainly think that it sounds crazy if I hadn't been introduced to astral projection and thought forms and the capabilities of the mind connected to the spirit and soul. I would certainly think that it sounds crazy, but just try it for yourself if you want to participate in this kind of meditation, and you'll start to realize the benefits of astral projection, of pushing thoughts out of your mind, of letting thoughts pass, and basically trying to achieve some things mentally that are not in the external world, but involves you working on yourself and you becoming adept at communication on a grander scale than most people realize. And overall, you realizing who you truly are, getting down to the consciousness behind all the descriptions we attach to ourselves, behind all the identities that we think that we are. And there is an essence behind everyone that is not description. It is a consciousness in and of itself behind every single human being who thinks that they're this and that. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you found any of this interesting, then shoot that thumbs up down there. If you want to ask me a question about meditation, astral projection, this has just been a basic summary of these things, and I really just wanted to talk about the different kinds of meditation and some techniques that I've tried in the past. But feel free to ask me a question or make a comment. As long as you ask me a question politely, I'm most likely to answer. And hey, I really hope that you try some of these techniques, and just let me know what happens. You all have a great one.